Hello everyone, this is Kona, and thank you for tuning in to another video. Now, it's been about a week since Titanfall came out. This is a game that I was very excited for because I quit COD a while back. I didn't get Ghosts, I didn't really want to try that game. My last COD was actually Black Ops 2, and I didn't buy any DLC for that game. But I really wanted to play another type of fast-paced shooter. I consider TF2 kind of a mid-paced shooter, I guess you could say. It's not as twitchy and as fast as something like Call of Duty. Now, Titanfall is doing something pretty interesting for the first-person shooter genre in that it's combining a lot of these different types of game mechanics, even from other genres, and putting them into this one game. Like, it's kind of crazy. There never seems to be a moment where there's like nothing to do. There's always something to do in this game. Of course, you have the pilot gunfights that feel very much like Call of Duty. They're very fast, but you also have the minions that you can farm. I call them creeps because I play Dota, so I just call them creeps. You can farm these creeps, and they're actually pretty important in the game, and so that's sort of something that's taken from a MOBA, farming these creeps. You also have the Titan fights, which are a bit slower. They kind of remind me of Halo fights, where you have to eat away at their shield first, and then once their shield is down, then you can actually damage them. So there's all these different gameplay mechanics kind of merged into one, and there never seems to be a dull moment in this game where you can just take a break. Unless you hide in the corner, you can always hide in the corner because these maps are huge. But there always seems to be something to do, especially because of those creeps all over the place. There's always something to shoot at. Now, there's a lot of great things about this game. You know, this game is really fast-paced, so if you're like a really twitchy shooter, this is probably the right game for you. You know, if you like vehicles, there's the Titans, so you feel pretty badass in something that can take down pilots really easily. So, yeah, there's that as well. But I kind of want to talk about some things that bugged me a little bit after spending about a week playing this game. Now, the first thing that I noticed is I started using the word feeder a lot in this game, which is very strange because feeder is something that I use a lot in something like Dota 2, a MOBA, where feeding, in other words, you know, you getting killed a lot, is helping the enemy team out, getting more, it gets more stuff for them a lot quicker. So I've noticed that in this game, feeding is actually an issue. I feel like in the past Call of Duties, if a teammate died, it wasn't that big of a deal, right? It's like, okay, they suck at the game, or they're not doing that well in this round, that's fine. But in this game, if you have someone who's feeding, it will help the enemy team get their Titans faster, get their damage cores, or their special core abilities for the Titans a lot faster, and soon you find yourself just completely overpowered, and no matter how good you are, sometimes you just can't take on that much firepower from the enemy. So there is actual feeding in this game, which I find very strange and hard to get used to. Another thing that I was surprised at is that hardpoint domination, which is their version of just COD domination, doesn't feel like COD domination. It feels more like the Battlefield type of conquest, and I think the reason is because these maps are huge. These maps are very big. They're designed to be populated by Titans, so they have to make the maps big. And because of that, it's very hard to control the map. You know, in Call of Duty, I used to always like to get 2 points, A or B, or B and C, and just hold those two, and you can really hold the line really well. But with this game, you get back capped so many times that you're constantly running backwards, and you know, someone's capping something behind you, and like, again, I just came from there. There's so many ways around because the map is so big that I feel like there's no map control, and that's why I actually prefer attrition, which is the team deathmatch version, rather than domination. I always prefer domination in Call of Duty, but in this game, not so much. Another thing that kind of annoys me is the jumpiness in gunfights when you're fighting as a pilot. It's really annoying to have someone jump all over you, and it's just hard to hit them. Sometimes they cling to a wall, which can maybe change their hitbox, and then it's like, you can't hit them. It's really hard to hit them, which is why I like using the Smart Pistol, because it just locks on. But yeah, the jumpiness in gunfights is a little difficult to get used to if you're playing with COD, because now there's a lot of verticality to it. They can jump right over you, and if you're not used to looking up or looking behind you, that kind of thing, you're gonna get outgunned, which can be kind of annoying. Now, speaking of gunfights, I was kind of disappointed to learn that there is no pilot versus pilot only mode in this game. It's all about the Titans. I mean, I guess it is called Titanfall, so there has to be Titans in it, right? But, you know, it would have been nice to see a pilot versus pilot only mode where maybe the map was a little bit smaller, but you can only play as pilots, because I actually like the pilot gameplay. It reminds me sort of like Halo, where there's a lot of jumping around, a lot of verticality, a lot of flanking and stuff like that. Rush down with the kick! But when you go into Titan, yeah, you feel pretty badass and powerful, but it's very linear. Yeah, you can look up and down, but Titans can't jump, so you can't. It's hard to flank people unless you're gonna, flank around a building and stuff like that. So Titans, I feel, are very sort of like a 2D type of gameplay where you're just kind of walking on the ground. But pilots add real 3D kind of fights where you can jump over people, go all over the place, and I feel like having a game mode for that only, well, yeah, I really wish they kind of had something like that. Now, when I first booted up the game, I saw this campaign thing, and I got really excited because I thought this was only going to be a multiplayer game. So I started that up, and I soon learned that it's not really a campaign in the traditional sense. It's not a single-player campaign. It's basically playing multiplayer with some sort of fancy intro and outro cinematic sequence that you're in that sort of tell a story. I wasn't really paying attention because I was, kind of distracted by the fact that I'm going to play a multiplayer match. So I don't really know the story. I guess apparently these two factions are fighting, whatever. But I feel like they might have missed an opportunity to make a really awesome single-player campaign. They created a lot of great assets. The game looks awesome. I think they could have made a really cool single-player campaign, or maybe even like a co-op campaign or something, that told an actual story, because there seems to be a story here. They could make a story, but they just kind of threw in the, they threw dialogue over multiplayer, and it didn't feel like an actual story. And also, sometimes people like to play single-player games just to play by themselves, to beat something, beat the computer, accomplish something. And in multiplayer, it's not always a guarantee. I mean, single player, yeah, you might die sometimes, but eventually I think you'll win, right? In multiplayer, you can go an entire night losing all the games. I've done that in TF2 a lot. So just by having this multiplayer only type of mentality, yeah, that's okay for a lot of competitive people, but if you're looking for a single-player experience, the campaign is definitely not it. Now, there are a few other things that sort of bug me that I guess I could live with. The fact that it's an Origin, Origin for PC, I only really use it for Battlefield and Titanfall, and that's about it. Everything else is on Steam for me, and I think for most PC gamers it's like that as well. It just kind of sucks that it's Origin exclusive, and EA, they had to go with EA. I guess they had to default to EA because they didn't like Activision, so they had to go with that publisher. Which means they're going to be rolling the DLC out, like Battlefield, I guess, where there's a season pass, or you can buy the DLC separately. It's going to be coming out later. You have to pay for it. We have to go through all that. Also, this is kind of a small thing, but there is a workaround, is that when you start up the game, you have to sit through that intro movie that shows the EA logo and then the Respawn Entertainment logo. That's nice, but then there's no way of actually, I guess maybe I'm not pressing the right keys. There's no way to get out of that or skip it to go onto the menu. It takes forever to start up. There is a workaround, I think, where you can actually rename the .bik files, .bic files, which are special video files for games. You can rename the extension to like backup or whatever like that. Just rename it, and it just won't find those video files, and it'll skip them so you can go right onto the main menu. It sort of works, but it's still a little slow. I really wish there was a way to exit out of that thing and just skip it, because maybe the first time you want us to know that it is an EA and Respawn Entertainment game, but after the first time, it's like, we get it. We just want to play and get into the game quickly, and it just takes forever to load up. Kind of sucks, but I guess we'll have to live with it. So those are my initial thoughts on Titanfall for the first week or so. I hope this game does well. I really enjoy the fast-paced shooting of it, because it's almost like I need a fast-paced shooter that's not Call of Duty. And right now, this is sort of fulfilling it. Now, what are your thoughts on Titanfall? If you guys downloaded it, Xbox One or PC, I play it on PC Origin. Let me know in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching, and have a nice day.